This morning, Scripture comes to us from the writings of the prophet Ezekiel. A few short verses in chapter 37. I'll be reading those words in yellow and invite you to read aloud together the words in white. The hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of the valley. It was full of bones.
He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry.
He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know.
Then he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
This is what the Sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life.
I will attach tendons to you, and make flesh come upon you, and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord.
I confess that as I gathered my thoughts this morning, there are so many different things swimming in my head. First of all, wondering where the St. Louis Cardinals went this morning. But honestly, I also wonder how many times a person can break an ethical code before someone seriously calls them to accountability. I'm also wondering why we still celebrate Columbus Day. When the guy stepped off the boat, he thought he was stepping onto an island off of China. He did not prove that the world was round. He did not discover America, and he helped launch the invasion of the Spanish Empire that was greedy and genocidal. The federal employees get the day off tomorrow. Why do we do it? Because it's what we've always done. Dry bones. In the midst of all of these various distractions, I am struck by this vivid image of Ezekiel's vision, a valley of dry bones. The image you see on the screen, anyone that we would have searched, in some ways is a bit gruesome. Dry bones. This vision came to Ezekiel in the midst of the time of the Babylonian exile. The metaphor was very powerful. The hopes and dreams of the former great nation of Israel were completely gone. They might have wanted in some way to restore to the good old days of David and Solomon, those good days of David that were filled with corruption, and those wonderful days with Solomon that included civil war. But those are gone. Babylon is in charge. Israel is shattered. The hopes and dreams of the nation, of the people, now generations in exile. The hopes are as dry as these bones. Will there even be a people of God, a people of Yahweh? Will the traditions and faith and hope of Judaism survive exile many more generations? And that's the reality of Ezekiel's day. And he is called to go to the dry bones with this absurd message that God will bring life to you, that God will breathe a new spirit into you, that God will reassemble and reincarnate a meaningful, powerful life out of dry bones. Dry bones. Do you capture the image? We're not talking about the recently deceased. These are the long dead. The hopes, the dreams, the possibilities, the realities have been long dead. And God calls Ezekiel to go to those whose hopes and dreams are long dead and preach a word of hope. It's no wonder most of us don't do it. The long dead. We're talking about, perhaps, family relationships, or what used to be close friendships that were shattered by betrayal or distrust. Some squabble that maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but the relationship is long dead. Anytime anybody tries to talk to either one of you, they know the look on your face, they know the attitude they're going to get. I am not going to give that person another chance. I will not forgive. I will not trust. I will not try to reconcile. This relationship is long dead. And yet somehow, sometimes, in some way, we go to them with a message of hope. But maybe if you lead with forgiveness, God can breathe new life into your family, into your friendship. And you can reclaim the most important gifts that God gives us, and that's companionship, trust, friendship. To go and speak to the long dead a word of hope, and be prepared for the way we get treated. I've known people who were married and yet their marriage is long dead. It was probably a convenient economic relationship, and that's fine. They get to live their own lives, but they weren't building a life together. They were helping to enable each other's individual lives. Whatever marriage is, was long dead. People who are smart and who know the reality stay out of it. They would not do what God asks Ezekiel to do, and to go and breathe hope to the long dead. To say, as long as we wake up each morning and we know who we are, and we are willing to think, we can rebuild relationships. We can find out what's really there. We can restore life. Yes, it starts with forgiveness. But the dry bones may not want to hear a word of hope. It occurs to me occasionally that the hope of the so-called traditional church died 40 years ago. I think it was sometime about when those idealistic children of the 60s who thought they could change the world morphed into the me generation. Sometimes after the impeachment, the resignation of President Nixon, and people gave up on the hope of changing the world through government, through collective action. And the church died with that hope. We've carried on, but it just makes me wonder at times whether it's not just that the hope is dead, but it's long dead. It's not just that there's a recent loss here, but the bones are dry. And I think perhaps at times it takes a 28-year-old to walk in to see it. We can't see that. Those dreams of dominating society, of being a mainstream force in our culture, of having a serious political influence that the mainliners used to think they had, those are all gone. Long gone. Leaving us with whatever's left. And leaving us with this call to come and speak to the dry bones of a dead movement and say, God still breathes life into you. And you can see it, and you can experience it, and you can be amazingly blessed by it if you will let go of what you think or what you used to think the church was about, and you embrace what the church is. The congregations flourish when they've understood that we're living in a consumer society, when they've accepted the fact that all you have to do is give everybody everything they want and tell them what they want to hear, and they will flock to you. And meanwhile, others perish because they simply will not accept the fact that we do have to speak the language of new generations. We do have to touch their hearts. We do have to offer them something. Somewhere in the mix of the mistake of the traditionals and the heresy of the contemporary church lies hope. Because God breathes life into dry bones. Because God pulls together what is there and sets it on a path again. But if any of this is true, if any of it's relevant, if there is any hope for dry bones, And unfortunately, we have to heed the call of Ezekiel. And we have to proclaim that new life is possible. We have to speak to those people that we've given up on, those relationships that are broken and shattered. Because you can talk till you're out of breath to someone about how reconciliation is the way of God. But if you have relationships in your life that aren't reconciled, you're wasting your breath. We have to speak to the dry bones and say, I believe there is still life. I believe there is still hope. I believe our family can be reconciled. I believe our marriage can be restored to something new. I believe our friendship does not have to die because we failed each other. It requires us to go into the community with some understanding and what gives life to the church is the Spirit of God, not the numbers on an attendance sheet or the size of the accounts in the treasury or the buildings that you may have. But there's a spirit that is alive that drives us to forgive and to show compassion and to care. And I think in the aftermath of the death of the mainline church, we've grown too silent, too shy, too embarrassed, too confused. And we've lost sight of what is really the life of the church. And we are afraid to talk about it. How many people go to your church? It's really not the point. What the point is that the Spirit of God is alive. That we do the best with who we are and what we have. That we feel the palpable presence of God. That there is life in these dry bones. And it begins, I think, with our willingness to testify. I'm wasting my breath telling disciples to testify. But I've got enough to waste. It's the stories of how I had reached my limit and got pushed beyond it and gave up on the church and faith in God and was totally lost and totally self-centered. But somehow people loved me back into hoping again. And I found a new faith. And I found a new purpose. My life was restored. I was the dry bones, and God breathed new life into me. It's the stories of how grief completely shattered us. Wasn't that we shed a few tears or we kind of got foggy for a while, but we were shattered. And I don't know for a while whether I cared about anything or anyone. But in time, God breathed new life into me. And I remembered that it's the relationships and the trust and the caring for other people that defines the whole purpose of life. God breathed new life, new breath into these dry bones. It is the story of us being forgiven and us forgiving. It is the story of how we wandered and how we became so self-centered, or how we became so hopeless, or how we became so vengeful, or how we became so self-righteous. The confession of how lost we were, of how troubled we were, how broken we were, of how pathetic we were, of how arrogant we were. But God didn't just dismiss us and found a way to reach out and to restore us. People will be attracted to new buildings and new technology and loud music, and we're not going to ever change that. But what they need is hope. What they need are living, breathing examples of dry bones coming to life. Let us pray. And here we are gathered in this one room, this valley of dry bones, living in the shadows of yesteryear, and yet somehow still alive. Not because of earthly achievements or worldly possessions, but because of your Spirit. Believing in you because we've seen you at work. We've noticed you at work in each other and in ourselves. And so we pray, oh God, that we'll be able to hear all and proclaim to the world that you do bring life to dry bones. You bring hope to the hopeless. You bring vision to the blind. You open the ears of the deaf. You restore life to the dead. You are God.